This week's episode of This Is My Bourbon Podcast is brought to you by Distilled Experiences, the premier Central Kentucky tour group on the map. This is the best way to check out the Kentucky Bourbon Trail and all of the wonderful things that Kentucky tourism has to offer to you, including, but not limited to, the Bourbon Trail, as mentioned before, the horse industry of Kentucky, and all of its culinary and cocktail culture. You can find your exclusive experience at distilledexperiences.com. And if you would like to participate in the public tours, which occur every Friday and Saturday, you can use the code MyBourbonPodcast for 15% off every tour. So one more time, public tours, again, at distilledexperiences.com. You use the code MyBourbonPodcast for 15% off. And there might just be the chance the Pear Bear himself will be your tour guide. So, on with the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of This Is My Bourbon Podcast. I'm your host, Perry, and I'm on my own this week, and that's for a couple of different reasons. First off, we are coming off of Whiskey Weekend Batch 2 with the podcast, and it was something else, let me tell you. And I'm still a little worn out. I'm still a little tired, and so we're doing something a little bit different this week. But before I get to that, got some news to talk about up front, and a couple of other little things here and there. But first off, I want to say a big thank you, as always, to everyone who has been rating and reviewing the show on iTunes. That is a super awesome, huge way that you can support the show, gets more people seeing the show in their podcast apps, and pushing it towards new leaders. So thank you for doing that. Please continue to do that, or do that for the first time if you have not done so just yet. So let's talk about what this episode's going to be. So I'm going to run through a little bit of news. There's not a whole lot that has come out over the past week, but just a little bit here to chat about. And then you are actually going to hear what was February's bonus episode for Patreon. It's a really fun episode that I got to do with my wife Lucy and my father-in-law Brett, where we actually tasted some gin. So it seems kind of odd coming off of Whiskey Weekend, but I want to explain too why we're doing this. So the audio that I captured on the last night of Whiskey Weekend doesn't make sense to put it to air. There's a couple of parts of it that I might wind up publishing on the main feed for people to hear, but for the most part, it just was kind of unusable audio, and I'm not gonna put something out there that I don't feel super happy with or super proud of, and it doesn't make sense to put you all through something that I'm not confident in either. So you're going to get to hear this bonus episode, which is a lot of fun. And then I'm going to come back at the end and answer some Patreon questions as well, give you some tips and bits, and then we're going to wrap the show up. So let's talk about a little bit of news. So first and foremost, we got to talk about the newest release of Booker's, which was not necessarily announced recently, but it is coming in very, very hot across the country. That is dropping at 126.4 proof, and it is called Granny's Batch, which is really cool. According to the notes that come courtesy of Fred No, he says his grandmother was very close with her oldest son, Booker, and she was instrumental in getting him his first job at the distillery, where he would go on to become master distiller, create his namesake bourbon, among others, and leave a lasting impact on the industry as a whole. Margaret was a gracious, patient woman who ruled the roost in her own quiet way. When she wasn't keeping track of her kids and grandkids, she enjoyed a bourbon highball in the evenings, playing bridge with her girlfriends, and making her famous nut cakes at Christmas time. So naturally, seems like another good fit for the Booker's line, continuing with this this motif of family that they seem to have been playing on pretty highly over the past couple of years. I'm pretty excited to check out Granny's Batch once it hits Kentucky here in the next couple of weeks, I'm sure. Another big piece of release news is not necessarily a new release, but new distribution, and that is for the Four Roses Small Batch Select, which is going to expand into over a dozen states, which is including Colorado, Florida, Illinois, Indiana, Massachusetts, Michigan, Missouri, New Jersey, North Carolina, Ohio, Tennessee, Washington, and Wisconsin, which expands from their original 5 states of California, Georgia, Kentucky, New York, and Texas. So if you are in one of those near markets, congratulations, you're going to get to try what I called my best bourbon of 2019. I'm excited for more people in the States to check it out, and I think that it's going to be a pretty killer addition to an already stellar lineup across the board. Yeah, I think we might have talked about this a little bit already, but it seems like some more information has come out to give this a little bit more of a boost in terms of what this product's going to be. As a bourbon bottle just decided it's going to fall over in the studio. The Bulleit Blenders Select is going to be the newest product from the Bulleit Bourbon Company. It's going to be a minimum of 9 years old. It's going to be a blend of 3 of their products, and I believe that it is their traditional Frontier whiskey, their barrel strength, and then their 10 years. So it's going to clock in right in at 100 proof, and will retail for $50 a bottle. So this is something that I'm kind of interested in picking up. Looking forward to finding out what this product is going to be like. It might be a little bit before it actually makes it to the market, but even still, I think it's something something to get excited about, rather. So I think that that kind of is it. Oh, one more thing. It looks like the Bardstown Bourbon Company is going to be releasing a brand new product for their collaboration series. And this time they're going to be partnering with the Goodwood Brewing Company, which is out of Louisville, rather. I almost said Frankfurt, and it's out of Louisville. And there's a little bit of information on that. It is a 9-year-old Tennessee straight bourbon whiskey that is aged in Goodwood Walnut Brown Ale casks for 18 months. It's quite a while for a bourbon to be sitting in a beer barrel. Looks like it's going to be about the same in terms of price, around $125 a bottle, which is pretty standard for the Bardstown Bourbon Company products, and it's going to clock in at 103.2 proof. So again, looking forward to checking that product out. Always a fan of anything that has come out from the Bardstown Bourbon Company, and looking forward to seeing where that's going to take us. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it to this kind of Patreon unlock, I would call it, where you are going to get to hear what the bonus content for Patreon is like. So again, towards the end, I'm going to hop back on here and answer some Patreon questions, do tips and bits, and then we're going to wrap it on up. So I'll see you guys here in a bit. Hello, Patreon. Welcome to the February 2020 bonus episode of This Is My Bourbon Podcast. And funny enough, we're not going to be drinking bourbon this episode. We're going to be drinking gin.
Yay. That is a true enthusiastic yay.
Yes, indeed. Lucy is back again because she was here for the pregame chats for episode 115. Welcome back, Lucy.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
And my father-in-law, Brett, her dad, is here as well. Hello, Brett.
It's a pleasure. This should be about my 4th appearance, I think.
think so. That sounds about right. Sorry, I'm also working on making sure everything sounds okay as I'm doing this. But I'm kind of excited for this because we've never tasted gin properly. Please excuse the dog in the background as well. That's unavoidable at this point. She is very big and needs a lot of attention. But so Lucy looked up before we started this the proper way to taste gin. And both she and Brett are much more gin people than I am. And I am kind of coming to this, I would say, with fresh eyes and ears and palate. So I kind of want to do a little bit of like gin history, if you don't mind, as well. Some of the different types of gin, too. But I guess first, because when we do these Patreon episodes, we do kind of the standard format. So, Brett, what have you been drinking recently?
Well, I got to tell you, when it gets cold, I drink bourbon.
Only when it gets cold?
Only when it gets cold. Never drink it otherwise. No, we have been enjoying a lot of bourbon right now, and but gin is always one of my go-tos, especially when we're out for a nice evening. I like to have a nice gin martini to start things out. But kind of specifically, just been drinking some of the 6-year-old Heaven Hill. Enjoying that as an everyday, and I've been kind of starting to get back into absinthe a little bit. So we'll talk about more of that here soon, hopefully.
You guys just came back from France as well.
Yeah, I went to Paris. Took my wife Annie there for her birthday.
World traveler.
It's a lot of fun.
Lucy, what about you?
Cocktails and wine.
Anything in particular for the listening audience?
If you can have it, get a bee's knees. All the bar needs to have is honey syrup and gin and lemon juice. Okay. That's my favorite. Okay. So I've been drinking a bunch of different cocktails because it's my birth. Well, it was my birthday month. So towards the end there.
Bread and butter.
Well, no, bread and butter is my bread and butter.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, real quick, speaking of cocktails and Lucy, why don't you kind of go over that absolutely amazing one that you came up with for the Christmas season we enjoyed?
I guess that is what I have been drinking a lot of, actually.
Ditto, same here.
Well, Perry's family wanted to do a Christmas cocktail for their Christmas celebration. Mm-hmm. And being a cocktail person, I took on the responsibility of creating it. So what I did was I made a juice of sorts with half cranberry juice, half apple cider, threw in some rosemary and some cinnamon sticks and let it cook along with a bunch of sugar because I had originally planned to make a syrup out of it and it was too much liquid to sugar ratio, but that's fine. It worked out for the best. So with the cocktail, what was the measurements we came up with, Dad?
We'll have to start talking about it. I'll tell you. We reduced
I think
by
it was
an ounce each time.
Yeah. If you were to do it on ice,
right,
it would. I think it's 2 ounces bourbon.
Yep.
And then filled to the top with the juice mixture.
Yeah, that makes about maybe that was almost equal.
Yeah, it's pretty equal. And then if you're doing it up, I think it was still equal measurements.
Yeah, and it is a delightful up cocktail.
Yes, it is. It really is. It gets you in trouble because it hides the bourbon a little too well.
Tell them the beautiful part that helps hide the bourbon and just makes it smell so amazing.
Well, the garnish, which was the original inspiration for the cocktail, because I knew I wanted to do this for a garnish. It was figuring out what to put, underneath the garnish. So the garnish, you stick a rosemary sprig into a cranberry so you have something to hold on to. Then you get yourself a torch and you torch the rosemary. So you get the aromatic rosemary burning and it really highlights the flavor and masks the alcohol smell. So you can just keep drinking them all night.
It makes the room smell amazing. And also, didn't we put a little orange zest?
Yeah, a little zest of orange.
Yeah.
That came kind of later on in the development of the cocktail, too.
Yes.
That was just kind of a surprise, like, oh, we may as well add this.
Well, I was thinking, traditional Christmas flavors. You've got your cranberry, your clove, your orange. I didn't want to put clove in it.
Nope.
But orange seemed like a no-brainer. So we zested an orange on top, and that was another good aromatic choice.
So guys, it's still nice and wintry out there.
Mm-hmm.
If you go kind of go over this recording later and try to make you up one, see what you think. let Perry know.
And you know how to get a hold of Perry, I'm sure, since you're Patreon.
No idea. They have no idea.
Hopefully they know by now.
All right.
I mean, if they're listening to this, hopefully they've caught on to how to get in contact with me.
Yeah.
But who's to say, man?
Yeah.
Who's to say?
Yeah. Perry, what have you been drinking?
So,
Yeah.
I'll talk about this a little bit more on the main episode coming up next week. But Lucy and I went to a preview party, rather, the night before we recorded this, for the newest distillery that's going to be opening in Lexington. It's going to be the first African-American owned and run distillery in the state since before Prohibition, I think is what they said.
Can't remember.
I can't either. We have like I said, we'll talk about it on the show next week. But there's a dog still whining outside. But it's really cool. They're going to be distilling their own product here very soon. But in the meantime, they've been using distillate from Hartfield and Company, which is really cool. It's another local brand. If you've not heard of them before, they're out of Bourbon County, Kentucky. Oddly enough, the only distillery in Bourbon County, which seems counterintuitive, but there you go. That's about it. We had a nice dinner last night at Zim's Cafe, and I had a glass of Old Granddad 114 there. Oh, and then you had your what was the cocktail that you had?
It was the, Honeywood. And it was Woodford Reserve, Aperol, and grapefruit. But there was something sweet in it, and I can't remember what it was. It was really good.
It was really good. And you were saying it, so she ordered it without the Aperol.
I'm
And
not a
then,
huge Aperol or Campari person.
but the
But
guy
I can drink it.
the guy came back over and was like, "Are you sure you want it without Aperol? It's like half the drink."
I love me some Campari.
Yeah, and it turned out to not be super noticeable until the finish, but it was good. I liked it a lot. So, shall we drink some gin?
Yeah.
Sweet. So Lucy has taken it upon herself to pour for us as well. So one of the things that she was saying with gin tasting is the best way to do it is to do equal parts of the gin and water.
Well, I read that somewhere, but then I read somewhere else not to do that. So we're not going to do that.
Oh, okay, well, let's just
We can do it as an experiment if you'd like, but
I imagine it's just going to taste like watered down gin.
Yeah.
yeah, probably.
So, no, we can just drink it neat. I mean, that's kind of how we do stuff anyway. It's a cork pop.
Wow. All right.
It was a slow burn of a cork pop. That kind of hurt. So we're starting out with Hendrick's gin, which famously, Lucy has said, famously, quote unquote, is her favorite. Right. Okay. Thank you for.
Yes, it is. Sorry, I'm focused on pouring this gin.
Yeah. Quiet on the
I
radio.
don't want
Never a good
to
thing.
spill it, so
And it's famously, I'd say mine as well.
Yours as well?
Yeah,
Oh,
I didn't know if it was
sorry.
famous or not.
I apologize. So the other thing too is that apparently the best way to taste this is out of a Glencairn. And other than water, this is the first time that a clear liquid has been in a Glencairn in this house.
as far as you know. I'm just kidding.
Are
Don't
you-
do that.
Are you tasting gin in my Glencairns? In Glencairns?
Maybe. No, I'm not.
This is... just naturally, I'm like, oh, I'm going to get the caramel and the oak flavors.
Yeah.
Because
No, you will not.
Ooh.
So, in order for gin to be gin, it has to have juniper in it. That's really it.
Is that... Well, there's got to be more to it as far as regulations, right?
Not much.
No?
No, not much.
Really?
British
Gin
are
is
simple
basically
people.
Infused vodka. It's just
Yeah.
clear ethanol with botanicals,
Fresh botanicals.
fresh botanicals.
Okay.
Yeah, you can make sort of the equivalent of bathtub gin from the old Prohibition days by just taking essences and concentrates and mixing them up. But to be true gin, it has to be fresh botanicals, properly infused.
Yeah. And the difference in how it's infused is the different types of gin, which you said you'll hit on. Did you say we're going to do history?
I said I would like for somebody to talk about history.
Oh, you don't have anything prepared?
I don't know anything about gin.
was
Well, I thought
hoping
you had
did.
all the mapped out.
Hey, look,
You
man.
could have brought a book.
We
Hold
talked
on,
about
I'll
this.
look it up while we sample.
Hey, let's Google that real quick.
We talked about doing this last night. So it's been a very quick turnaround.
Well, I didn't even remember we were recording today until like an hour ago that I was reminded.
I'm laughing a little bit watching Lucy. So she has the mini Glencairn, and seeing you swish it around so carefully too is really fun. I'm really enjoying
I
that.
love the mini Glencairn.
No.
Also, you're supposed to swirl. It's kind of like tasting wine the way you do this. You swirl it because you want to get aeration. And then, is that the word? I don't know.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay,
Perfect.
aeration. You gave me a face. I didn't know.
No, it was a listening face. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I apologize.
You've never given me the listening face before,
I've
so I don't
always-
know what you've been doing all these years.
I've always thought Perry had a face for radio.
It's a face for something. I'll say that much. Okay, well,
All right.
Also, when you taste it, you're supposed to do the that sommeliers do.
gosh, that's gonna make
So,
for great
It,
audio.
it should
Prepare
aerate
yourselves.
in your mouth.
We'll pull away from the mics a little bit.
And
when
then
that-
you
when that happens.
slosh it in your mouth like you would bourbon and let it coat your tongue. And then when you swallow, you wait to see what sticks.
All right.
Wait
All
to
right.
see what sticks, like
Now, on
spaghetti on a
Flavors.
wall.
Yep.
Real quick on the nose, of course, the Hendrix, classic Hendrix is famous for the cucumber essence that you get along with the juniper
And the rose.
and the rose, exactly. So what I like to kind of think about when I'm smelling the gin, even if it's a nice just well type gin, or if we're going up to a top shelf gin, it's similar to when I talk about absinthe. A lot of absinthe just smell like good and plenty, just licorice candy, and it's just it's unappealing. And if you don't like licorice, you're done before you even give it a try. or
And that's where
explore
I
it.
am.
But a good absinthe, like some of the best ones, have that it's alpine springtime, and there's some grassiness, and just
Yeah.
it should just really just like the botanicals here in a good gin. They're more than just people complain about. It's like drinking a pine tree.
Yeah.
I don't ever smell pine tree. I smell
No.
amazing, just wonderful botanicals. So
Yeah.
give it a try, y'all.
Lushness.
Yeah, lushness.
There is the ethanol because it's a clear.
Yeah,
Alcohol.
you get a lot of the just alcohol aspect.
Yeah, that's what's to me hard about tasting gin for what it is.
Gin is not one of those alcohols I sip neat like a bourbon.
I'm sorry. I want to say something real quick. We would be getting after this dog, but we can't because she's deaf.
It doesn't do a lot of
She
good.
just misses her dad so much.
There's nothing we can do to get her to stop, so I apologize. But she's a very sweet dog. She's just loud.
She doesn't know her loudness.
No, she doesn't. She doesn't.
Oh, you all.
So I, as I said, am not much of a gin drinker. But, and yeah, when I drink it, I definitely don't drink it neat. But I had kind of the same reaction to it that I do with a really warm bourbon. It just tastes very full-bodied, even for a clear spirit. And I like it a lot. I'm not able to describe it in the way that I normally do bourbon, so I'm kind of limited to the like or dislike here.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I'm trying to, kind of actualize some of what I'm experiencing, I mean, I really do find some of the like the woodsy notes to be really inviting. I mean, that kind of rosewater quality is really prevalent too. And you can definitely see how this would stand up well in a cocktail for sure. And, nobody drinks gin neat. If they do, good on you, I guess. Are there people who drink gin neat?
I'm sure there are, but gin
Sure
is
used to.
created to be a cocktail
Sure.
alcohol. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
its purpose is.
But I like this neat
I'm glad you did.
quite a bit, actually.
You can start doing Hendrix on the rocks.
I just might. Hendrix on the rocks with a splash of water.
Yep. There you go.
But something unique about gin that I don't know if you've really thought about, but gin is part of the basic, the basic alcohols. You've got, whiskey, therein lies, your bourbon and even brandy, but whiskey, vodka, rum, gin, tequila. Gin's really the only base alcohol that comes with additives and to the distilled itself. It has to be infused, therefore it's just vodka.
And it's like, I think the distinction is purposeful additives because I mean, like bourbon. I mean, if you kind of talk about it in its general state, the additives come from the barrel. I mean, you can't have anything else added to it, or else it's not bourbon. But at the same time, I mean, there is something that's being imparted to that white dog, that clear liquor from the barrel. But yeah, there is a very intentional. There's a very intentional addition of flavors with gin. Yes, infusion. Right. So, Brett, what do you know about the history of gin? What can you tell me about the history of gin, if anything?
I know a little bit. This many years ago, probably it would be 1700s in Europe, especially like England, Scots Irish area. It was like the rum of America when we came here.
Okay.
When we started pioneering this place, coming on the shores in Virginia, rum ran America. We ran on rum. That was it. And it was very similar to that in England and a few years before that, but it was so detrimental eventually because it was about all anybody drank was gin.
Really?
Yeah. And there are many drawings and paintings of calamity in the streets and regular Sodom and Gomorrah in London and they're blaming it all on gin. So gin did have a little bit of a shady background only because everyone drank it.
I mean, I guess part of that's what led to prohibition in some ways in the United States as well. But it's funny that you talk about what was and wasn't allowed in terms of alcohol. As soon as you were talking about that, immediately I started thinking about
We'll fix this in post-production.
Give me some hints.
the French drink that
Absinthe.
Absinthe. Thank you.
I knew it couldn't be
Jeez.
absinthe. You wouldn't be forgetting my
Golly.
precious green fairy.
I love absinthe. Don't get me wrong. It's just I just for whatever reason the word was escaping me. By the way, I want to say something. You ever watch somebody drink through a clear vessel? Their teeth
Sure.
look. Everybody
yeah.
does this. I mean, it's across the board. People make weird faces when they drink. I've been very conscious of it recently. Don't know why. Anyway, so do we want to try this next one?
Yeah.
We should.
Wherever it may be. Here it is.
And it's a perfect segue. Perry just mentioned absinthe and how it became very vilified and deleterious. This is another Hendrix product.
Yes.
And this was gifted to me, I believe, by my lovely daughter, Lucy. And I might have her read the label. It is quite delightful to read, and it is absinthe inspired. That's a very small pour, Lucy. I think you need more to
I
get
couldn't
the...
finish the last one, so it doesn't feel like
I finished her last tasting, by the
it
way.
doesn't feel like there's a ton left in here.
Oh,
so
she
I
gave
don't
me a
wanna...
Perry pour. All right. So
All
could
right.
you read that
Okay,
label
sorry.
for us?
Also, what is this? This is the Hendrix Orbium.
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 It is a reimagining of Hendrix by our master distiller, Leslie Gracie. Sorry, I can't. The lighting's terrible in here. Instilled with natural flavors, including lotus blossom and the addition of quinine, wormwood. The result is oddly exquisite. It is what Hendrix might taste like in a parallel universe. It is most certainly not for everyone. So, it
me
has
see
the
that
wormwood.
bottle.
Oddly exquisite. That's
And it's got an amazing label. It looks very old school. And it's a limited release, so I hope you can get it again. But it does, in fact, have wormwood, the dangerous wormwood that is made absinthe so deleterious.
so apparently too, and I guess this is kind of consistent with bourbon tastings as well. One of the best ways to reset your nose is to sniff some coffee beans in between, and we just did that.
On the nose, it's a lot more citrusy than normal Hendrix.
Did you notice that ethanol is virtually unable to detect?
Yeah, it's a lot less noticeable.
Because just when you start to get that hint of the alcohol smell, it's overtaken by the quinine and the wormwood
sugary smell.
and the other flavors. Now, wormwood is like the second most bitter natural substance known to man. It's in the Bible 7 times. It's always associated with evil. But it's also used to cure stomach ailments and that sort of thing. So it is an alchemist tool for just the dawn of human enlightenment.
I wonder how this would or how it would act in a cocktail with absinthe.
Thought about it already? I think we're going to explore that maybe for our absinthe show.
Oh, the absinthe episode would be...
We're going to video that one. That will be available on YouTube, hopefully.
I don't know if I'd be able to figure out how to work a camera after an
Oh my
absinthe
gosh.
Well,
episode.
I could film it
Yeah, we'll have to have a
because I don't like absinthe, so I probably won't participate.
Fair.
But I can film it. But I think it needs to be very artistic and like you hear the water droplets and you hear
yes,
the
you must.
flame from the candles around
It's like
you.
an ASMR video.
Kind of.
And
But I just think it needs more ambiance than your usual
once the
episode.
green fairy starts letting out what's inside you, well, it can get a little wild.
Okay, well,
That's what she's good for. All the things you try to hide from everyone else, she knows how to get out.
well, cheers to the Orbium.
Yeah, so here's to the Orbium.
You definitely get the bitterness of the wormwood on the back end of it. It's actually very bitter.
Oh, I love it.
It's quite citrusy.
Very. And you also get a little
wow.
red berry.
It is intensely medicinal,
Yes.
I would say that's a good way to describe it.
but in a sexy, old school way. I really
Yeah.
like it.
Gotta say,
I
I
don't
don't
know
like
if
this.
Perry likes
I don't like this one as much as I did the previous one.
This one's easier to drink by itself, though.
I disagree.
It has, to me, it's got more flavor and it disguises the ethanol a lot better.
You know, you could maybe do something with this. You know, maybe not drinking it straight neat. But we've used it in a few cocktails, very specific ones, and it is pretty amazing. But it is a gin drinker's gin.
Yes,
This
I
is
would
not
say
a
that.
beginner's gin. And we have the
Hello.
ultimate. We're going to finish the show with the ultimate non-beginner's gin.
Oh boy.
See, I think I disagree because I don't know. We'll get to that later. But on this, that bitterness to me is almost like an Aperol or a Campari bitterness, where it's that very herbal bitterness that you don't really get anywhere else.
I guess. Like with Aperol and Campari, it always seems to be sort of grapefruity.
Yeah.
Whereas this is more grassy bitter.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just there for you if you're lucky enough to have them re-release it.
We're
it's
going to get a
definitely
secondary market, I'm sure.
yeah, it's definitely worth adding to your collection if you're a gin enthusiast.
But why did my brain just now think, oh, there could definitely be a secondary market for gin?
I'm sure there
I'm
is.
sure there is too, but like,
It probably predates the bourbon secondary market
yeah.
by about 300 years.
Yeah.
that's when they were still calling it the Facebook.
300 years ago?
Yes, 300 years ago.
I stand by my statement. I don't know how this episode is going to end on my part, because do you remember the first time that I had gin, Lucy?
Okay. We were young and dumb, like most people are when they start drinking gin, and why most people stop drinking gin.
Yes.
But we mixed it with Sprite, and Perry, by the end of the night, was flapping his arms and going, "I'm a bird."
We have lost so many potential gin enthusiasts to one bad teenage
One
night.
bad night.
I've heard that story so many times.
That's everybody's excuse. It's either tastes like a Christmas tree or
Yeah.
one night in college.
Yeah. It's like, I promise, if you'd have drank anything else to that excess, you would have been just as sick.
Exactly. Just because it tastes a little different coming back up, you can't drink it anymore. I mean, I did get sick on vodka one time, and I didn't want to drink it. But I've come around.
But now the Orbium is full of botanical, medicinal herbs that will cure your stomach ailments and make you
Yeah.
feel like $1 million in the morning.
There are actually a lot of ingredients in gin that are very good for you that could keep you alive forever, you know?
Well, that's why the gin and tonic was used for
yeah.
Yeah.
medicinal purposes as well.
Yeah, by the British armies stationed in India, by
Yes.
the East Indian Company or whatever.
Trading Company?
Yep.
East
Yeah.
India Trading Company?
Yeah.
If I find myself
EITC.
participating in too many gin and tonics and someone questions my, fortitude or moral standard, I say,
Allegiance.
I am purposely defending myself against malaria. The rest of you are on your own. But I
And
will
then
not
if you
get
put some
malaria.
lime in there, you're not going to get scurvy.
There you go. And I always have lime in there. So yes, scurvy.
Unless it's
and
a
malaria.
Hendrickson tonic, then you'd have a cucumber.
Ooh. You're starting. Springtime. It's.
I know. I hate
cannot
that
wait.
it's cold.
I cannot wait.
But it's a very British day out today here in
is.
Kentucky.
It is.
It's been drizzly and sort of cold, but not so cold it chills you to the bone.
I said that before we started recording, that it was the perfect gin drinking day,
yeah.
because
It really
feels
is.
like we're in jolly old England.
Yes.
Sorry,
But
old.
it's said that the Dutch invented gin. There are two stories.
Do enlighten me.
So the Dutch have a drink called gin. What is it, Dad? Genever. Jinvere. Something like that. I'll have to look it up. Genever. And it's much more bitter and hard to drink. But it's said that the British truly invented it the way we drink it now.
Ah.
But also, speaking of it being the perfect day for gin, half of the cases of gin sold go to the Philippines. So really, it should be a warm,
Wow.
pretty
All right.
day.
Well, that's when my gin sling is so popular. I've had so many people text me or call me from a bar. So could you please teach my bartender how to make your gin sling? It's the greatest summer drink in the world, and it's gin, and it's a lot of fun. So it's sort of a culmination of all the classic gin cocktails, like a gin Ricky and all the ones that are like 1 or 2 parts. It just kind of puts them all together. You've got simple sugar in there, some orange liqueur, a little bit of like a hopefully a fresh type simple, or not simple, fresh, obviously fresh simple, but like a little bit of lime juice, a little bit of sweet and sour, all that best made
Yeah.
fresh. And with that gin, oh my goodness, people.
You'd be surprised how few places know how to make a gin sling. Or really, many gin cocktails that are not a gin and tonic or a sidecar,
And it's super easy to make. You just have your standard like 1.5 ounce pour of gin, and just kind of start subbing it down. Like I'll be about half of that with the orange liqueur, about half of that with the sweet and sour, about half of that with the lime juice, and of course your little dash of a simple, and shake that up in a shaker. My goodness gracious, garnish it with an umbrella if you feel like it. By God, a nice fruity garnish.
Yeah.
Weren't you saying the other day that you're not supposed to shake gin? Or you are
No, you
supposed
do
to shake
not
gin?
shake gin.
Yeah.
All right, but this is a summer cocktail, just making it as cold as possible. Don't shake the crap out of it, but can you say that on the radio? Oh, the whole thing.
I shook the crap out of it. Sorry.
But it's like some of the bourbon cocktails. Traditionally, I like to only stir bourbon, but there are a few like the obviously by this point world famous Lincoln Avenue cocktail that you shake because it's sort of a summer bourbon cocktail for great polo game side and that sort of thing. And no, gin is a stirred martini for sure, and that's why James Bond made the effort to make sure you shook his vodka martini.
Well, fun fact, martinis can only be gin. If it's got vodka, it's a kangaroo.
Exactly.
Another fun fact for you.
Well, good day,
I
mate.
did my research before this episode.
Yeah.
Good day,
I
mate.
crammed the last 30 minutes before we started recording, learning about fun facts about gin.
I now want to trick somebody into making a bourbon and Coke, but telling them it needs to be shaken.
Not stir.
just see it explode. It'd be so great.
Ale Leighton bourbon, shaken, not stirred.
Right on that, Mr. Bond. What happened?
It's just a distraction so I can get away. As James Bond escapes the casino. Well,
Create a diversion. You got it.
As you can tell, the gin is already working.
That was the day that Q quit.
Yeah.
You realized that James was fine on his own.
A little quick note while Perry picks our next gin.
Yes, which will be the Castle and Key gin.
Ah, excellent. This gets back to the James Bond real quick. Dale DeGroff wrote a nice cocktail book. Of course, you might know him as King Cocktail. He's one of the most famous mixologists in America. And he was talking about how that all happened early in the book. And Smirnoff was bought by sold from a Russian company, I think, to the British. And it was one of the first just blatant advertising in movies. And so apparently, I haven't seen the actual original first time he orders his famous martini, but he specifies a Smirnoff cocktail, a Smirnoff martini, and that's why he said shaken, not stirred, because really until they started hammering us with vodka as the martini base liquor, a martini was always gin, and you always stirred it. But boy, I tell you what, you want your vodka martini shaken to the end of its life, because you're pretty much just drinking ice cold vodka.
Yeah.
So especially if you skip the vermouth. So that's where the shaken not stirred came from. That's why there's a difference, because it's a gin martini.
So we've now moved on to the Castle and Key gin, which I've long said, and most people say, is kind of the bourbon drinker's gin. And part of that,
Pretty sure I was the first person that said that to you, so
So it's
there you go.
Fine, whatever. Sorry.
You have to give her a footnote if you mention that in any of your publications.
In my bibliography.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But part of that comes from the fact that this is made from their rye whiskey mash bill. So it's I can't remember. It's on the bottle. Your dog's outside now, I think. Is that what you
know?
All the dogs are outside now.
I thought I just heard one of them shaking their collar outside the door.
No.
Doesn't matter.
How do you make a gin from a rye mash?
Well, I mean, all it takes is clear alcohol and infusions with
They must.
botanicals.
I guess they really hyper distill it. They use a column distillation on this, or obviously not pot still.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that all of Castle and Key's products are column still.
Yeah, it's like I see what you got here. Yeah.
But this was from before Marianne left. So this was actually crafted by her, signed the bottle for us as well.
It's very interesting. I can't place the extra, nose that I'm getting here.
I'm getting
To
a
me-
honeysuckle.
See, I'm getting a lot of citrus. At first, I got a lot of juniper.
There's just something familiar about it that's not gin. It's a familiar Kentucky smell for some reason.
Corn.
So it's got to be the corn. I'm loving
Because
it.
to me, it tastes like moonshine that you made bathtub gin. You just threw some stuff in your clear corn whiskey.
This is fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Have you not had this yet? You've
Yep.
had this.
I might have, but I'm promised not straight.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
Room temperature.
Fair enough.
It's so perfumey. I feel like when I spray myself with perfume and I accidentally breathe in through my mouth.
I get that more towards the finish.
Yeah.
But the front end of the palate definitely tastes like a white dog.
Yeah.
It's got a hotter feel to it. I don't know what the proof
yeah.
is.
It's 100.
Yeah, gin is commonly 80.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like you're drinking a bourbon with the heat going down. Like, I get the bourbon heartburn drinking this.
Sorry.
The bourbon heartburn.
I like this one a lot. This has been... Lucy does not.
I'm
Lucy's making
sorry,
this...
I really don't like this gin.
Yep. As a
I want to
gin-
love it because it's local, and
Yeah.
I want to support Castle and Key. Their vodka's great. I don't even like vodka, but it's because it tastes like moonshine. That's why I like it.
Yeah.
But this, oh my gosh, it is so floral and an assault on your palate.
It's something.
It is an assault on your palate
I like it.
because it doesn't taste like anything.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't.
In particular,
It's not a gin drinker's gin at all. And it's a nice attempt. I probably would never buy it. I don't want to shoot them down or anything, but there may be.
well, you got a bunch of bourbon drinkers listening to this, so
I'd buy it.
so I mean,
But you know,
I'd buy it.
I guess I'll say if you've not tried it and you're not just a hardcore gin drinker, but you like to explore and maybe look at some different profiles, pick it up. But it is not your basic gin, and I am like Lucy. I'm left with things in my palate here that I'm ready to get rid of. And
Yes.
it's been over a minute since I drank it.
Well, unfortunately, we are moving on to another Castle and Key gin.
I'm excited for this though.
I
This
am
is
too.
probably going to taste more like a traditional gin.
This is their autumn 2019 release.
I thought it was winter.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I remember specifically it saying
Okay.
autumn on the bottle.
Oh, we forgot something. It's tea. It tastes like Earl Grey tea.
That's exactly what it is.
After drinking the water from there, it was like a little bit of tea, which I love. And I love herbal teas, but I don't know. It's just too much. There's too much sugar
It
with
actu-
the tea. It
what-
was
what's
very
interesting?
sweet.
It's interesting that you say sugar because it does have a very like coarse sugar mouthfeel to it.
Yeah.
I mean, it does really kind of give that like sandpapery feel on your tongue.
Mm-hmm. I think it might be good in a cocktail because it's very flavor forward. So it would, and I've had Castle and Key gin cocktails before. So I would experiment with it in cocktails, but to drink by itself, I would recommend it.
Now we're certain that this is the autumn gin, right?
Not entirely now because everything's scratched out. It smells like it's gin-like. It doesn't smell like it's a white dog, which most things in these tiny bottles in our house, it's bourbon or white dog. So if it
I
doesn't
can't
smell
think
like
of-
that, I can't imagine what it could
I
possibly
can't
be.
think of one mini bottle that's a white dog bottle.
There's one downstairs.
Is there?
On the bar cart, yeah. Because I almost grabbed it.
Somebody help me with this commanding fragrance here.
Chamomile.
Cleaner.
Oh.
Yeah, there is something so familiar and I can't put my finger on it.
But it's not something you drink.
Potpourri.
No, it's clove.
Oh yeah, it definitely is clove.
Yeah.
100%.
That's a legit botanic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, I think clove is one of the infused herbs that
I
they
think it
use
is
for
too.
this.
I think it's clove and citrus is what I'm getting. Orange specifically.
If only there were a way for us to look it up.
So a neat little side note about the juniper berry, which is so important
Yes,
to
please tell us.
gin.
Yep.
Perry and Lucy got married at Berry Mansion, and it's famous. Was it Juniper Hill that it's on, and it's famous for its pines and beautiful view of the capital of Kentucky,
Yep.
in Frankfort. Beautiful, beautiful place, but rich history. The owner was a distiller, and during the time around Prohibition, sort of a neat Great Gatsby type fellow. He and his wife could never have children, so they built a giant entertainment wing on the mansion, and the whole society there in Frankfort and Kentucky became their children. And Barry, I don't know if you probably remember that he came from Old Crow.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
So I just looked up the botanicals that they use in this one. Excuse me. Juniper, coriander, or cilantro. Angelica root. No idea what that is.
I use that in my absinthe.
Okay. Licorice root, white sage, ginger root.
It is sagey. That's, I think, some
Sage,
of it.
yeah. Pink peppercorn,
And the ginger. I can smell the ginger.
clove, and cassia bark. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Cassia.
Well, I
guess so.
think it's.
Cassia. I don't know.
I also use coriander when I make my absinthe, and I think that's what I'm smelling the most of, is the coriander.
I kind of thought that at first, but I really do smell the sage and the clove. And what was the other thing I agreed with?
Ginger.
Ginger.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so
I really
this
get
is
the ginger. It kind of smells like ginger beer.
a lot of props then so far, just on the nose. It's
Yeah, nose is
quite
great.
an exploration. So that's kind of what you might go for as a distiller.
It's quite different from the regular one,
Very.
too. I mean, all of that has to do with the fact that they way changed up their botanicals for this one, but it's nice that they did something so different
Yep.
for a special release.
I will say, if you are one of those people who absolutely, can't stand that sort of pine bark, pine cone, or taste of gin or smell, you will not get that here.
This is the most interesting gin I've ever had in my life. Not in a bad way.
Why do I taste lavender?
I don't get that. There's another flavor, and I'm trying to figure it out.
Whoa, that clove hits you on the back of the palate. Woo!
It's the sage. The sage is very...
Uh-huh.
That's what's lasting on my tongue is the sage.
I'm definitely picking up the peppercorn as well.
Oh, the peppercorn at first, for sure.
Wow! This is wild.
It's kind of a dank gin.
It's
It is dank. That's the other flavor.
It is dank.
It's that sage. The sage is...
Yep.
So when we were visiting Captiva for our family vacation, and we have a family friend that lives in Fort Myers, and he's an amazing bartender.
Yes.
dank.
Shout
I'm
out to
sorry.
Greg Baldea.
Yes.
Sorry.
But he's one of the best. He makes the best cocktails ever. We can all agree on that.
Yep. Look him up on Facebook. He commonly puts some really beautiful pictures. And one of the great things about being there in Fort Myers is his cocktails can be as beautiful as they taste.
He likes the tiki movement, which I'm
Yeah.
very for coming back.
Yes, absolutely.
But he made this cocktail for me because I like an herbal cocktail. I love a good herbal cocktail.
What
But
do they call his 5 questions?
yeah,
a 5-question
He has
cocktail.
5 questions and then makes you a cocktail. So I said that I liked herbal flavors in my cocktails, which is funny that I don't like vermouth or Campari, but I do like more of the tea and rose and the lavender flavors in there. But he made me this drink with sage. So I'm drinking it. I'm like, what is this flavor? I know it's sage, but what is that? And I was like, oh my gosh, it's expensive, high quality marijuana is what it tastes like.
Not that my daughter would know what that smells
Not
like.
that I would
We
know.
heard
Hey,
stories.
it's Patreon, so
I was in Colorado, so it was legal. But that's what it tasted like. So that's, I think, what we're getting from that sage.
I'm still getting it. It's one of those that's
Oh, it's
sticking around
lingering.
for a hot minute.
remind me to tell you a Colorado weed story after we get done recording.
That's for the after listeners, the special
This is my
contributors.
podcast after dark.
Oh my gosh, you need to create a tier that gets that.
Just
Oh, man.
ping him over some Bitcoin, and you can join right along.
If you pay in Bitcoin, then you get This Is My Bourbon Podcast After Dark.
Colorado edition. Colorado marijuana edition.
No, I think what it would be you find just seedy people that are in the business, and all the voice of the other person is like what you hear on Dateline when they don't want to be, when you're trying to hide it.
Well, I saw the guy get hit by the car, and I just didn't want to leave him there, but I was also too scared, so I ran, man.
Yeah, we'd put it on video, but it would just be our faces blurred out
Yeah,
in the shadow.
it'd just be a black
fake
figure.
beard on and some sunglasses.
Once marijuana becomes legal in Kentucky, we'll do a Patreon bonus episode.
Oh my gosh.
After I retire from Toyota.
Yeah.
We'll go out in the shed in the back and hotbox.
Oh my
Man,
goodness.
it is a hot box. This shed is something like a torture chamber, from on the
Saw.
yes.
Anyway, I really like this. But
I do too.
okay,
Yeah,
you do?
I do.
Okay.
Because it's
No.
very interesting. I like how different it is.
So Lucy, this as a cocktail enthusiast, I believe this is a gin for a very imaginative cocktail.
Yes.
We're not talking, the gin sling. We're talking a
No.
very imaginative one where you can really explore ways to bring out the flavors in here that you liked and let the others just sort of support, like a cast of characters. I would love to see you do that. I'll help you.
Did they have suggested cocktail recipes with that?
They do. Let me go back to them though.
Because I'm sure
sorry.
they've explored this.
Yep. So what I like about these suggestion type things is just sort of like look through like what other people are doing and just make note of the returning characters that you see, and then just then build your own from those. Those are the
Yeah.
ones that are rising to the top,
Yeah.
and are actually working, and then you can sort of explore them yourselves.
They actually do not have them for their regular or for the autumn gin, but they do for the regular gin.
Okay. Well, we'll just have to do it for them.
Guess we will. We know a guy
R&D.
that works there that we can give him the cocktail recipe if he wants it.
James, are you a patron? I think you might be.
Part of me hopes that he's not because I just hated on Castle and Keys
Well,
gin.
it'll give him something to work on.
I know.
It'll give him something to work because they can't really stick with that recipe because that's not going to work. They're just going to lose business with that.
I don't know. They have they have a good local business and the bourbon people that, want to support Castle and Key while they wait for the bourbon to age.
Yeah.
Well, the rye
But-
is coming out this year.
Yeah.
Well, then they might see a sink in.
Or they could just explore, a variety of gins.
special
keep
editions.
that one, keep
Yeah.
that one, but do just like what we saw Hendrix do.
Yeah,
I think I bought the Midsummer, and that
you
was
did.
because
Because I really wanted to try it and you ended up getting
gone. It is gone, people.
it.
It
was
did
so
not
good.
last.
Well,
So,
it was more of a floral heavy. So
Yeah.
I was really excited about it.
yeah.
And so I was happy that you got it. It was really good because it had lavender and a heavier rose profile.
Yep. So that's Hendrix Midsummer for you people who are keeping notes.
Are you giving that to me to
Who wants
finish?
to finish it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Well, while we wait for you to
Well,
finish it, I have
I'll
a
take it.
fun fact about juniper berries.
love it. Let's hear it. You
They're
sounded
not-
very.
You came a lot more prepared than I
Yeah.
did for this, which I love.
I thought you had the history all. I thought you were going to cover most of this.
no.
But you're nailing the NPR sweaty balls.
Well, thank you. This is my radio voice.
I like it.
So, juniper berries are not actually berries. They are seeds or pine cones. And the little bits that are pine coney are very fleshy. So, it makes it look like a berry. And
What's that?
I think that was Dad handing me the coffee.
I thought it was you exhaling that last slam
I
of
didn't know
gin
what
you
just-
just did.
I don't know what just happened. Here, let me actually take that again. Sorry.
I'm pretty
So-
sure that the devil's looking over our shoulders as we are
Yes.
drinking a little bit too much gin.
So that's
I
it's
hope
not
you're over
actually
it.
a berry. And juniper is not, like, they don't farm it. It's found in the wild. I guess it's plentiful enough where they make gin that they don't have to farm it. So there was a scare because there was this fungus disease thing going around England and killing all the juniper because it's a very fragile plant. So
Very good.
there are your juniper fun facts.
Never would have known.
Wow, people. Please tell me we're not to Uncle Val's already.
We are. This
are-
is the final gin.
All right, we have a story here.
Here we go.
Yeah, I need some preparation for this one, I feel like.
Yes, you do. All right. So a good friend of mine, Josh Butcher, who's a musician, and you might pick him up with the Ranahan's around this area.
He's been on the show before.
Yeah, he's been on the show. Absolutely.
He was also on the Lost episode.
He was on a lost episode and 2 legit episodes. So he is a returning bourbon podcaster.
Oh,
so
the lost
if,
episode.
Was he on too?
Yeah, we did the one at the
That's right, at the Burley Market.
Burley Market and Cafe.
That is very correct. Sorry, Brett, continue.
Yeah, so Josh and I, he had been in Montana for a while. He took about 7 years off to cowboy out there, and there's a cowboy bar called Stacy's that he hung out at, and it was a true cowboy bar. I mean, it's been there since the Cowboys, and but he could ride his horse there from where he lived and tied up and drink and things, and so he asked me to kind of tell him how to make a proper mint julep, and he was going to host the mint julep bar there during the Kentucky Derby. And another time he discovered the gin and tonic. This man has drank nothing but beer and bourbon his whole life. Discovered the gin and tonic. We're talking well gin and cheap tonic, and after about 13 or 14 of them, he realized, well, you can't drink 13 or 14 of them. But
No.
he's one of those people, luckily, unlike some people out there, that after that bad first gin experience, he continued to embrace gin. And it's one of our favorite things to do if he happens to be by in the afternoon after work is gin and tonic. So we were at a Liquor Barn run, a little shameless plug for a Liquor Barn, and man, we were going to spend some money. We're going to put our paychecks together. We were going to buy the best gin they had. And we were going to shop, and we shopped, and we looked, and we read all the tags. And as you used to see on all you bourbon guys, the rating tags hanging off, 93 rating, 89, 94, So we saw this 96 rating. Uncle Val's Botanical Gin. I go, man, this is it. Let's
Cool bottle, pretty label.
It's a beautiful bottle. It's amazing bottle, and it's badge number 3 mixology. It's a badge 3 beverage, whatever that means, and it goes the whole thing, about him growing this stuff. I'm like, this is it. We found the ultimate gin. So we just purchased it. We marched our happy little asses home. We're just wringing our hands and getting the best glasses we had out. We were so excited. Dear God. That was 5 years ago. This bottle is still here.
And no bottle at Father's Bar lasts that long.
Nothing. It will not ever run out because we literally...
It's a gift that keeps on giving.
Is
People.
it though?
No.
It is so intense that we have a medicine dropper. All right, the classic glass medicine dropper bottle full of Uncle Val's, straight out of the bottle. That will turn any cheap gin into the most amazing botanical gin you've ever had with 2 drops. 2 drops of glass, and I can turn your cocktail into an amazing cocktail. But
I disagree.
Well, all right, I'm just saying, maybe 1 drop for Lucy. But we're
Or
about
just
to drink.
give me a good gin.
But we're about to. This is apparently a gin drinker's
That's
gin.
not that one.
But we're going to try this straight, people.
Here's the difference in how young people shop and older people shop. And by young people, I mean millennials and younger. And by older people, I mean not millennials and older.
What do you mean by that? We created you,
I-
millennials.
Yes. And you
It's-
created
we-
us by your bad decisions to make better decisions.
We are to blame.
To blame, we're making this world better.
Okay.
Anyways, besides the point.
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
I was just saying millennials as just a cutoff. So if I'm going to spend my paycheck on a gin, I'm going to
right.
do my research online.
Okay.
And the online research would not lead you to buy that gin. It would lead you to Monkeys or another really good gin, which I really want to try Monkeys so badly.
We weren't on the line that day.
I know that. That's why you bought that.
But I will say the last time I was looking at some absinthe, I did get on the line while
There you
I was
go.
at the liquor store. So I guess I'm.
Did you make a better decision?
I'm catching up. Yeah.
Can I just say, before we even get to it, I'm a little terrified.
But you should be because.
Well, but you liked Castle and Key gin, and it's an assault on the senses.
Oh, well then this is an artillery barrage. And
This is a tank of a gin.
Now, but smell it though. It does not even hit the senses like the last two did.
No, it smells like perfume. Like a perfume I would wear.
All right, you're about to drink your perfume. All right, so I don't know how much is actually in that bottle still because this is the last of it. So we will
Do very
dote
tiny
it out
little
gingerly.
sips.
I feel like I need to cleanse my palate with bourbon at the end of this.
You might need to cleanse your soul. You don't have to finish it. I'll put the rest in the medicine dropper, but give us all an ample taste there.
Brett, look, I'm gonna pull something out special so we can
There's still a little bit in there.
we can make this worthwhile, not just for us but for our patrons as well.
Well, we love to make it worthwhile because
Yes.
you've stuck with us this long, us meandering about.
Oh, it smells quite nice.
It is
does.
actually
Smells like
very
lemon lime
refreshing.
soda.
I tell
I
you what,
get rose.
it smells really good. I was very lucky. A friend of mine, who I won't mention her name because she's a lawyer and she illegally brought in some bison grass vodka from overseas, and it's illegal in America still because it's a anticoagulant. But it even has the bison grass in the bottle, and when you open that for the first time and put your nose in it, it actually has less smell than the room around you. It's the most
Weird.
perfect absence of anything. It's amazing.
What is bison grass?
It's literally a grass that the bison love to over in the Czech Republic area. That's where it came from.
Creative name.
Yeah.
It smells
So-
like gardenia
So you stick your nose in here
does.
and it just smells clean
and floral.
and floral and light.
Pretty. It smells pretty.
Smells like I'm running through a lush meadow.
I feel like I'm in a flower garden. I don't know.
I've fallen asleep in a nursery. Being awoken by a rude gardener.
I'm getting a lot of citrus on it.
Yeah, there's
I mean,
citrus,
so much citrus.
but not a lot of that pininess that people complain about.
Grapefruit. Grapefruit and gardenia. That's what I'm getting. This definitely the
alright.
scent of grapefruit, not the.
All right, so
I don't know
the-
about the taste yet.
But
But
we're gonna go for this, people.
Lord be with me.
I think it's less of an assault on my taste buds than Castle and Key. But it's got a weird flavor. Ooh, I know why I don't like it. Coriander. It's heavy coriander. I don't like coriander. All I taste is coriander
I don't like the
and pepper.
I don't like the palate up front. It's a little too bitter for me, but as it kind of eases into the finish, I really like it. Because that's when it starts getting like orange creamsicle.
Yeah, orange creamsicle.
Well, I find the front an attack,
Yes.
middle disappointing, in the end,
Pleasing.
no, even worse.
Oh!
It just doesn't taste like gin. It's like the Castle and Key. It's got a lot of things going on, and you can find some pleasant parts in it for sure.
Also, hi, James.
Hi, James.
You are a $5 patron.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Right.
You know, not everybody can like what you do.
Yeah.
I know.
And,
A lot of people like what you do, and that's
But
what
again,
matters.
we're talking very specifically. You know, we probably shouldn't say that about because we're talking about very engineered, master distiller type gins.
Yeah.
All right. You know, so they are going to try to do some things that might be a challenge to your palate. So let's just think of this and like the other as a challenge. And my God,
Yeah,
life
it's
would
a
be pretty
challenge.
boring if it all tasted like Barton's bottom shelf
Sure.
gin.
Sure. I mean, that's, why I love having so many different bourbons too,
Yep.
because if it all tasted like Jim Beam White Label, it would be a sad state of affairs.
Yep.
But I understand. I heard that. Most of the Patreon episodes don't get edited, so
Oh,
there's a good chance
no.
that. I'll
Okay.
lower it down so nobody
Thank
hears
you.
that.
It came from my stomach. I couldn't stop it.
It's
That's the gin working its magic.
That was that last gin making its way back.
I understand why this might not be pleasing in terms of gin drinkers. I like it not being a gin drinker, but it's, I get that it's off profile for a gin.
Yeah.
I'm
So-
going to make a little metaphor here.
All
Actually,
right,
it's going to
Walt
be
Whitman.
a simile because simile. It's going to be a simile because I'm going to say like. It's like when you get tacos and they put cilantro on top. But when they put way too much cilantro and that's all you taste and it is an assault to your senses, that's what this gin is. It's that assault to me of coriander.
Yeah, it's too
And
much of a
citrus.
good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why we use it in the medicine bottle as a way to just add a different flavor profile to some gin, cocktails or whatever you're doing. So I don't want to get you completely off track on Uncle Val's. This is one of 3 that was happening at that time. So
Okay.
there are different ones. This is a leading nice gin. So
How much is it?
It's in the $40 range.
I looked it up. It was about 35, 36.
Yeah.
See, to me, it would be an interesting gin to get for under $30. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's worth that money.
For what purpose? Just comparison's sake? Or
Just to have different types of gin for different types of cocktails or
Sure.
to liven up your gin and tonic.
So if you're looking, it will say Uncle Val's Gin, and this one has the word botanical. There's others, like it might say floral, or it might say something else. So just realize there's other things to try, and if you are building a gin collection that's anything like what I'm sitting amongst here
bourbon
In
wines.
the bourbon room.
in Perry's Bourbon Room. It would be a fine
I like it
addition
in here.
to create some
I like
amazing
it a lot
things.
in here.
I feel claustrophobic in here.
I'm sorry.
But I think I would like to try this in a Spanish gin and tonic
Mm.
because they like to use grapefruit as their garnish.
Gotcha.
And I think it would go really well with that grapefruit. And they like to add more botanicals to it.
Is that the only thing that separates a regular gin and tonic from a Spanish gin and tonic?
No, there's more. You want to look it up?
I would be happy to look it up.
Okay, cool.
Y'all just talk amongst yourselves.
I know that it's served in a red wine glass it's a special glass that I guess they use because it's ginormous. But you could, to make it at home, use a red wine glass unless you have something larger.
Getting there. Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm seeing some. Is that a rosemary sprig? I don't know. Let's see. It's this recipe. Basically, the only difference is juniper berries, lemon wheel, and thyme for
garnish?
for the garnish.
Wow, amazing.
And it says. Okay, so the recipe is just pour the gin into a wine glass filled 3/4 with ice, top with the tonic, place the juniper berries, a lemon wheel, and thyme into the glass.
Wow.
So that's one recipe.
Hold on, I have the answer.
Okay.
Let me find it in this article.
All right, millennials with your
Millennials.
interwebs.
Millennicals.
Millennials with your
So, a
interwebs.
Spanish gin and tonic is just called a gin tonic. You drop the and, so that's the first difference.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. I hate reading. They give you the little bit that you need when you're searching for the article, and then you have to scroll and scroll and scroll to find your answer.
Are you on tripsavvy.com?
No.
Oh, well. Sorry.
Tell you what, while she's looking, I'm going to make a little suggestion for you guys, especially if you're into doing any cocktail exploration. My lovely wife, Annie, got me one of the soda streams for Christmas years ago, and I've loved that. There's so much you can do with that by being able to create your own fresh sparkling water so that you can make your own tonics. I highly recommend a soda stream if you're a do-it-yourself type cocktail maker. And it really does allow you to make some amazing fresh tonics for these gins. All right, that's all I got. Pressure's
I'm
on.
almost there.
So close.
So close.
I'm
Okay.
really- oh, here we go.
In the Spanish gin tonic, the drink is elaborately garnished with many different herbs, spices, and flowers to amplify the botanicals in the gin. So
that's it?
That's all that it's telling me.
So they're just getting more imaginative with their
Yes.
garnishes.
Lots of ice, lots of gin, lots of good fresh quality tonic, and it's go crazy with aromatic garnish. I love it. I can't wait. Let's do it.
All right.
I'm down. So that was the gin Patreon bonus episode. I kind of liked that. It was nice doing something different.
Refreshing.
So, refreshing indeed. Yes. Hopefully we enlighten some of you to drink gin, I guess.
Try it again if you have had a bad experience in the
Yeah.
past. Make sure that you use a quality gin and not a cheap gin, because that's just going to taste like ethanol and tonic if that's what you choose to drink it with. But a good gin cocktail, I think, is a good way to be reintroduced to gin, and gin in a good way.
Yep. Refreshing is the word I would have gone with for gin. It is very refreshing. It has its own medicinal qualities, so you can use that as an excuse. But
Yeah, but so does bourbon.
true that.
Bourbon beats cancer, apparently.
does.
Bourbon does beat
It
cancer.
beats everything.
If you want to know more about that, we'll tell you.
Yeah.
But
Just
what
message Perry
do-
on a platform.
What I
of some
do highly
sort.
recommend, guys and gals, is explore gin instead of vodka.
Yes.
Because vodka,
Please.
all vodka
As
does.
we know, vodka sucks.
Vodka is just ethanol. It is
Yeah.
just ethanol. It is whatever you want to distill, take into, what is it, 297.6 or whatever. You can't create, you can't create 100, you can't create 200 proof, you can't create 200% or whatever, except in a vacuum. I said that wrong. So anyway, that's why like pure grain is 190, because you can never get to 200. All right. You can't get there.
Right.
So once you're there, you're theoretically pure ethanol.
Mm-hmm.
They just water it down to the 80 proof and sell it to you as vodka. All right. That's all you're doing, is turning other things into alcohol. Gin, on the other hand, is a way to actually create some magic. All right. So just,
Oh, it's much more artistic.
yeah, and as we've seen here, we've had completely different. That's one thing turned out way better tonight than I thought. Completely different experiences.
Completely different.
Every single one was completely different.
And what was great is that, 4 of them were split into pairs.
Yeah.
And they came from the same distilleries in those
Yeah.
pairs. So, I mean, even just seeing, it's the same thing with bourbon. You get different parts of the warehouse. You get, different locations on site. And, it may be the same distillery, the same recipe and everything, but, it's going to produce something totally different.
Yeah.
So seeing that on a much more minuscule level in terms of, really thinking about what goes into the flavors of a product, that's really fascinating to me. I think that's what kind of got me interested in learning more about gin in the first place, not just because, Lucy drinks it and I'm like, maybe I should try this too and see what it's all about. But, I have said that I like gin.
Yeah.
And I think this kind of solidified it for me too, that
Excellent.
it's quite good.
Well, I think what's great about it, especially for people like you all listening and Perry, the ones that are serious about bourbon and can pick apart all the different flavors.
Mm-hmm.
That's how gin is. It's, you take a white dog and you age it and you create bourbon, and there's so many different things that go into each one to make it individual. And that's the same with gin. You take a white dog of sorts,
Yeah.
and add things, and it becomes a different experience. So it's an easy thing that I think it'd be easy to get into for serious drinkers
Right.
to have those different experiences.
Well, speaking of bourbon, I did, to wrap this up, pull out the... Oh, come on, man.
Ruined a perfectly good episode.
I did pull out the Wild Turkey Decades Master's Keep for myself and Brett, since Lucy doesn't want to drink bourbon, which is okay. But anyway, this is a blend of 20-year-old and 10-year-old
Wow.
Wild Turkey product. I wanted to kind of close the show out with that. But I like doing tips and bits for Patreon too. where, it doesn't have to be alcohol related. It can be something we've watched or read or enjoyed recently. So I'd like to recommend something to our listeners. Lucy, do you want to go first?
Sure. I'd like to recommend Audible. I can't remember what all they say in their ads, so I can't go on like that. But I have so far this year, I'm on my 6th book because I've been listening to my books. So I listen all day long, and I feel like it's a really great way to read if you don't have time to sit down with a book, or if you don't have the attention span like I do to sit and read a book.
To put that into perspective for people, we're in the 6th week of the year, which means that you've basically read a book a week so far this year.
Yeah.
I would love to see you get to 52 books this year. I think that'd be awesome.
You realize they cost around like $20.
I would love for you to read as many books as you can fit into a year.
Into your budget.
Whether they're $50 or 52 or not.
Well, the most recent book that I had to wait for my Audible credit to come through because the book was like $50 because it's a really big book.
Holy
and it's
moly.
50 hours worth of listening. So I was like, well, I'm not going to pay $50. So I waited for my $15 Audible credit to come through, and I got it for that instead.
Okay, well, fair enough. So, Audible.
That's fine.
Yeah. Brett?
But
Well, I'd like to take this chance to recommend a very good gin martini.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Perfect.
So maybe you're at dinner or at a bar with some friends, and you want something nice and different that's still light and refreshing. I know a lot of people are scared away by maybe the olives. You might not like the briny olive thing.
nasty.
Like a dirty martini, like my sister drinks a filthy dirty martini. It's like really they just take the olive jar from behind the bar and put some vodka in it and shake it up. That's what she likes.
Yeah, that's like the grossest thing I could ever
Right.
imagine.
And I like olives, but I can never have a drink with
my
olive
gosh.
juice
Yes.
in it.
So let's
I
lighten
just want
this
to
up.
vomit thinking about it.
Let's freshen it up. Can you say vomit on Patreon?
Vomit.
Okay, excellent.
You can say vomit, you can say puke, you can say chunder,
Ralph.
you can say Ralph, you can
right.
say...
Well, this is
Spew.
my go-to just classic gin martini, and just when you order it, you might want to take a little spin on James Bond because this is a gin martini, but I always order a Hendrix.
Absolutely.
All right, ask for a Hendrix gin martini. You might feel the need to tell them not to spare the vermouth because most vodka drinkers they don't even want the vermouth.
Sure.
That's a lost, very important component to a martini. So, don't spare the vermouth. Stir. Don't shake it, please. And do a lemon, just a lemon zest garnish, a nice lemon twist of the zest. And that is going to be amazing. But the capper that I think makes a wonderful martini is Saint Germain.
Oh, yes,
A
absolutely.
nice Saint Germain. You can either have it added as a floater, but just have them put it right in the mix before they stir it. It's going to give it a nice, delightful, delightful finish. You're going to love it.
I also want to recommend a bee's knees while we're recommending.
You've done that already.
I know, but I'm officially recommending it now. It's my
A
favorite
gin
cocktail.
bee's knees. I've seen people do it with bourbon. They've stolen the name.
Huh.
Yes.
It's still good with bourbon. I've had something
Parley Social.
similar. That's probably where I had it. But there's nothing like a regular old bee's knees. Man, it's refreshing.
Yeah.
I'm
Good.
sorry. My leg got all cramped up. I'm trying to stretch it out while
Okay.
we're sitting
I
here.
need to let the dogs in. They've been outside too
Yeah.
long.
Well, I'll finish up real quick. Lucy and I just got back into Curb Your Enthusiasm
Yep.
last night, which I love that show so much.
It's so funny.
It's so daggum funny. It's on HBO. We're just on the second most recent season, but it's an easy 30, 40-minute watch. And Larry David's hilarious, as always. He's very much George Costanza
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
in his own show. That's it. Thank you all so much
Excellent.
for being patrons. We really appreciate it. It's so fantastic to see you guys support the show every single month. We love you all so much. Anything else you guys want to plug before we hop off?
Just Jen, try it.
Try
again.
Jen.
Gin,
Try it
gin,
again.
gin.
Give it a
More Jen.
chance.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. that's it. Love you guys.
Thanks, Barry.
See you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you guys both for being on. Jeez.
Thanks for having us.
I'm a terrible host.
Oh,
really
no, thank
are.
you for having us.
I appreciate you guys spending time with me recording for Patreon. We'll see you for the regular episode next week. See you next month for the next bonus episode. But until then, I'm Perry, and this is my Gin podcast.
Excellent.
For Patreon.
Bye, Patreonians.
That's the state of Patreon.
Thanks for funding Perry's Habit. So I don't have to.
All right. Thanks for leaving it on that. All right. Bye. Love you.
Bye. Love you too.
So, of course, thank you to Lucy and Brett for coming on and hanging out during that bonus episode. I had a really fun time chatting with them and trying something quite a bit different on that episode. So, this doesn't mean that we're not going to do an official wrap-up of Whiskey Weekend Batch 2. It just means that it's going to get pushed a little bit once I get the chance to kind of collect my thoughts and have some other people to bounce off of. I will say it was a fantastic time, and I didn't mean to push it so far to this point in the episode, but I really, really had a wonderful time getting to reconnect with old friends, getting to meet new ones, and just share really wonderful whiskeys around. So, look for the recap of Whiskey Weekend Batch 2 coming within the next week or so. Until then, we have some business to get down to, and that is answering some Patreon questions, rather. So all of these questions are taken from patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast, where you can become a patron for as little as $1 a month, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. So this first question comes from our good buddy Dustin Whitaker. He says, what is the best pour from Whiskey Weekend Batch 2? He also said, I'm craving another sandwich from Heavens to Betsy so badly. The Heavens to Betsy, first off, is a fantastic sandwich shop in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, which is another place that you need to check out if you are in town, and also some place that you will typically go if you wind up on a tour with us at Distilled Experiences. So I would say the best pour from Whiskey Weekend Batch 2. Oh, man. We have this tradition now where we go out to the Wild Turkey Distillery, and this is myself, Dustin, Bob Little, and Travis Gintz. We all go out on their back patio overlooking the Kentucky River, and we share a bottle around. And this year it was a Wild Turkey Kentucky Spirit, and there was something so good about that specific single barrel. And we just couldn't get over how phenomenal it was. Not to say that we didn't love the Kentucky Ale Batch 2 that we got to try, or Al Rye Batch 4, which was pretty phenomenal. And, it's kind of hard not to mention the fact that we got to pass around a bottle of Pappy 23. So there were a lot of really, really good things that made it to the tasting table at Whiskey Weekend Batch 2. Eric Smith asks, is hand sanitizer the new Weller? I would venture so far as to say that it might just be the next Pappy Van Winkle if we're not getting too careful, or words are hard, if we're not too careful at this point. ADHD Whiskey, who has been on the show before, of course, or better known as Matt Porter, or reverse the two, who's to say? How did the Beagle Rare photo with Will, Grease, and Dixon come about, and how is it now versus when we tasted it rather? P.S. Miss you. Well, first off, Matt, I miss you too, quite a bit. I was pretty much the driving force behind making sure this picture happened. I asked Dixon if we could all kind of get it out and look at it together, and then I was like, well, it just makes sense for us to take a picture together with it, because that was the most amount of people in one room, really, that had ever laid hands on it and had some kind of effect on it. So it only made sense to do something with it. So it was kind of my thought behind it, but I was just thankful that everybody was able to get together and do that. I'm going to share that photo on social media here in the next couple of days as well. Darren Wright asks a very specific question, and he says, Yeah, I have actually, Darren. I don't know where that voice came from either. That was strange. Stephen asks, what is your, Stephen Sussman, by the way. He said, what is the funniest memory from Whiskey Weekend Batch 2? Also, is it time to start your modeling career, Perry, after that pic that Chad took of you from Heaven Hill? First off, is it time to start my modeling career? Anything's possible. I'll say that much. And what's my funniest memory from Whiskey Weekend Batch 2? So on the way to lunch, on our second day there, we did a loop around about 2 or 3 blocks of Louisville, no less than 3 times. And it was quite magical seeing somebody incompetently try to drive us from point A to point B when it was just a block and a half away, and instead they took us around and around and around, and then finally figured out that we were supposed to be going a different way. So that was amusing, and hearing all the commentary that was going on behind the scenes, it made a very hungover bus ride that much less painful. So I'd say that's my favorite, or what the funniest memory from Whiskey Weekend Batch 2 was. Cole Boozer asks, if Elijah Craig Barrel Proof ever follows the path of Weller, never in stock, overpriced, secondary market market engine, how would I respond? This is a tough question because Elijah Craig Barrel Proof is already fairly hard to find. I mean, it's not regularly available, but it is... it's just not, it's not always on the shelf. So if it became this monster, I don't know, man, there's nothing really on the market that kind of parallels it at this point. I mean, you start talking about things like Larceny Barrel Proof, and, the first release wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. Then you move into Booker's, which potentially has a price hike, which I'm not terribly crazy about, but if that's the case, that's the case, and we're just going to have to kind of roll with it. I would probably move a little bit down in proof and a little bit down in price and just kind of settle with Rare Breed, which is not my immediate go-to ideal way of handling that situation, but I think that it's a fair way of tackling that. So I would probably say I'd move on to Rare Breed. So unfortunately, but this is all hypothetical. I don't know if that's actually going to happen or not. Bill Robarge asks a couple of questions. He said, which Irish whiskey are you drinking for St. Paddy's Day? And yes, I also posted this question on It's Bourbon Night. LOL. I am not much of an Irish whiskey drinker, but I don't know. I'd be open to suggestions. I could always go out and grab a bottle that day and, find something to crack open for the heck of it. I don't know. Just really not that big into Irish whiskey. I tried it a couple of times in college, and just really wasn't my jam. And then this last question is also from Bill. He said, what is your take on Caribou Crossing? Is it really the Canadian Blanton's? I would say that it potentially has the same following as Blanton's, but I don't necessarily know if it has the quality that Blanton's might have. This is also saying, or coming from a place of not having had Caribou Crossing. I've seen it kind of pop up a little bit around Lexington, so maybe I can try it at some point. I don't know. There's just so many other things that I would rather be drinking in the meantime, but I don't know, man. Who's to say? It could very well be the exact same deal, and I don't know. I don't have enough experience with it to really make that call 100%. But yeah, thank you all so much, Patreon, for sending in your questions for this week's episode. We're going to wrap it up with tips and bits real quick, rather, if I could speak. I recently got about halfway through and again, if you don't know, if you haven't listened to the show before, then you don't know. But I'm quite the nerd, and I recently got about halfway through the DC animated retelling of The Dark Knight Returns, which is a comic book from a graphic novel, rather, from. Jeez, I sound like a nerd. From Frank Miller in the 80s. Which tells the story of an aged, kind of grizzled and hardened Bruce Wayne Batman, where he comes out of retirement and faces new threats, and everything is just a fantastic retelling of that story, I think. It's animated very well. So you can find that pretty much anywhere that you rent or own movies, if that's something that interests you. It's really well done. I enjoy it. I need to go back and finish it up. But yeah, that's it for Tips and Bits for me this week. And thank you all so much for listening. I appreciate it. It's kind of a weird week, I know, but I hope that you enjoyed this special look into what it means to be a Patreon subscriber. Again, if you want to become one of those, you can head to patreon.com/whitebourbonpodcast, and for as little as $1 a month, you can support the show. At $5, you do get those bonus episodes and bonus audio content. At $10 a month, you get to be a part of our monthly live streams and hangouts, which are going to be occurring here very soon. So if you want more information on that, again, patreon.com/whitebourbonpodcast. If you want to follow me personally, I am at PRitter1492 on all social media platforms. The show itself is at My Bourbon Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Like we said at the top of the show, you can give us a 5-star rate and review on iTunes. Just do a write-in app. You just scroll down a little bit, and you can leave your comments, you can leave your stars, and it really, really does help us out in terms of getting to new listeners and expanding the family, as always. You can find all of our apparel and merchandise at bourbonshop.threadless.com. You can send in your questions or comments to thismybourbonshop@gmail.com. And if you would like to send in a voicemail for us to listen to for the Barrel Rings segment, which occurs at the end of most episodes now. We haven't done it in a couple of weeks, but we're going to kick it back up here very soon. You can call 859-428-8253 and leave us a voicemail one more time, 859-428-8253. Thank you to our sponsor, Distill Experiences. As always, we really do appreciate you guys listening. We'll be back next week with probably a little bit more of a regular episode. But until then, I'm Perry, and this is My Bourbon Podcast.